Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're doing a reaction video on a YouTuber called NeetCode.io. I've been following NeetCode for a while now, I think past 1 or 2 years, and he's putting a lot of good content, so mainly around technical coding interviews. And today I saw this video titled Why I Like C Programming More Than Web Dev. And I think it's a rant video, so he's probably pissed off on web dev. Just wanted to see why is he ranting about web dev when it's so cool to make those web apps these days, right? I don't face any challenges at my work when I'm doing web dev. It's pretty smooth, pretty easy thing to do. Anyone can do it. So let's see why he's so pissed off on web dev.
But most of the programming I do nowadays is in JavaScript, and I really hate it. Quick disclaimer, if you like JavaScript, I'm not trying to hate on you, I'm just giving my opinion.
I think he's hating anyone who's working with JavaScript. Yeah, I can feel that.
Language that I learned was C, and I thought that's all programming was. You're given this set of tools, and your job as a programmer is to go and solve problems using those tools.
My first language was C++, pretty close to C. I was in high school and pretty much hated it. Then I did one semester of C, again hated it. I didn't like it. Then I didn't do programming for like 5 years something, and then I ended up becoming a software engineer. I don't know how I become that. Maybe that's a topic of next video.
Loops, variables, functions, conditions, all that. But nowadays, when I'm doing JavaScript programming, that's the easy part of my job. The hard part is dealing with external dependencies. For example, to solve a problem in web development isn't really about putting tools together so much as it is about finding the correct dependencies, the good libraries, and once you found them, then putting it together is pretty easy. Not only is that not fun for me, but it's really boring and sometimes super tedious. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack.
Man, those were some solid punches. I think what he's saying right now, it's not about, he's not bashing JavaScript. I don't think so he's bashing JavaScript. He's bashing around this paradigm, this culture, and I can point it out why we have this problem. So most of the JavaScript framework or libraries, they're open source, so you can just install those libraries, those packages, and you can use them in your application to build features. Sounds perfect, but the thing is, everyone wants to standardize JavaScript. Now we have TypeScript, right? So unlike iOS development or Android development, in web, we don't have that much standard. I mean, iOS is whole controlled by Apple, right? And Android is whole controlled by Google. Even though they are both open source languages platform, but still they have their own standards. But with the web, what's been happening for past 20, 30 years, since jQuery, maybe after jQuery, is everyone has becoming opinionated in their own way. So some devs say, okay, I don't like this, so I'll fork this repo or fork this library, and I'll create my version so that someone who is like me can use that. So what's happening is there are a lot of branches in JavaScript libraries. Someone started with X, then someone created X1, X2, X3, X4, and then we have like whole tree of things. They do exactly the same thing, but they have different names and different ways of doing the same thing. So I think this is what he's complaining about here, that even though like when you start coding, when you start like building project, you would feel that, oh, like you need to solve this complex problem or you need to solve that complex problem. But in reality, especially in the web dev world, all you need to know different libraries so that you can merge those libraries and create a product. So that's the current way of doing front end. So yeah, so let's see what he says next.
2 examples. A year ago, I made this roadmap thingy, and people always ask me, how did you build it? Because they're trying to build something similar. Like this thing kind of drags around. It's like a graph, it's like a tree. I'll tell you, it was pretty easy because I used a library. But first, I had to find it, and this is the one that I found. I'm using Angular. I tried to find the best graph library that I could in Angular.
So yeah, so he's working in Angular, and then he had to find a library that could do the same thing. And when he's probably looking for those libraries, and he probably found too many of them, then he had to pick one. I mean, that's the first challenge. So usually what you do, you just see like what's the which library is the most up to date, like which library people are like pushing code and a lot of activities going around. But let's say you install some library which hasn't been maintained for like 2 years. Yeah, no one would recommend you to do that because there can be security holes. The dependency wouldn't get new updates or anything like that. So no one would recommend that. So, but he picked this library, So I think he probably solved his. So he probably found a way to build those graphs.
It took me a lot longer than I'd like to admit, but
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, I can relate it to that. Sometimes it's just too much.
eventually I found this library. And then I went through the documentation and figured out how to make these like custom template nodes and then suited it to my needs. So this one's not a big deal. It was just kind of boring implementing this, whatever. Basically, it feels like instead of actually programming, I'm just going on this weird scavenger hunt looking for the correct libraries. And I know some people are going to say, well, C programming kind of sucks. It's really hard to debug. What about segmentation faults? Yeah.
Yeah, I never did actual programming in C other than school. And even till now, I think programming in C is probably harder than programming in JavaScript. I don't know why I feel that way. Similar in Java, they're just too intimidating to me. Java, C Sharp, C. I did a little bit of Swift a few years ago, and yeah, Swift is fine. But the moment you have like classes and the moment you have like long variable names and stuff, yeah, just I don't like it. That's why I really liked Python. That's where I started, and then I moved to JavaScript. JavaScript is fine. Python is great. Yeah, I don't know. C is intimidating.
Yeah, true. But you know what's worse than segmentation faults? Webpack hell. When I'm
Yeah, I mean, Webpack is kind of mystery, a black box, and you don't want to ever get an error based on Webpack. I had an error. I was probably doing a very similar thing to what he's doing right now, and I was getting a weird Webpack error. I don't know how I fixed it, but I fixed it. I think I just changed some configs in the next config file. Yeah, you never want to get these errors. They're really hard to debug.
I was adding this editor thingy to NeetCode, I was using another external dependency, Monaco. This is it over here. It's the same editor I think that's used in VS Code. You're thinking, okay, that must have been easy. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I had to start fiddling around with Webpack because I was stuck in dependency hell. I couldn't get it to work. I had the same issue described in this post, and the suggested answer down here was not working for me. This is the part of programming where skill sometimes just goes out of the equation.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to move forward, if you have a problem, all you want at that moment is solution. Sometimes I don't even try to understand what the code is. If I see this green tick, and I get this feeling like, oh, maybe I got the solution, I copy it and paste it, and if it's running, there's a very high chance that I would just not read the code. I don't know why I do that, but maybe because I just don't want to waste time. When I'm in the flow, I just want to get to the solution. That's all I want. And I don't know if that's the bad practice, but so far it's it didn't hurt me that much. But yeah, this is what I do.
No matter how good you are, you just get stuck on a random error. Eventually, I found the solution. I didn't really figure it out. I didn't really feel like I learned anything afterwards. It was just that after searching for so long, here I actually made a post because I'm a
Yeah, even I don't feel like I learned anything when I copy and paste the solution.
good Samaritan. If anybody else had this issue, I wanted them to be able to fix it. So I answered my own problem, and it was this. On GitHub from a couple years ago, somebody had the solution on this obscure post, and guess what it was? Just downgrade one of the dependencies.
Oh man, oh man, oh man. I mean, even ChatGPT won't give you that answer, right? How could it? Oh man, I mean, and I think that would happen in any paradigm, even if you're doing C programming, C sharp, game development, anything. You would have these issues. I don't think so. These issues are particular with just web dev, but I can say what he wants to say in this video is web dev is not about skill per se. I mean, skill of writing good code, but most about how can you find good libraries and how can you integrate them. That's all what web dev is at the moment right now. And I can feel another way when I was adding authentication to my website. I felt the same thing, that they just gave you some steps. Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and you follow that and you have an authentication to your website, which is fine. I mean, end of the day, you want the product, right? You want to ship that product. Nowadays, it's more like we have abstracted so much that we are not, it's so hard for us to look inside the code, like how things are being implemented. And I think it will hurt you in the long run. If you follow shortcuts, it will help you, but at the end, you won't understand fully like how this thing works. And I think this is what like he's mainly complaining about here, that he doesn't want, or even anyone doesn't want to feel like they didn't learn anything while they have the end product. Yeah, that's not a good feeling.
That's it. I definitely felt like I learned something after that. This type of problem, I don't remember having it when I would do C programming back in college, doing like operating system stuff. And the reason for that is with C programming, you're not really using a lot of external dependencies. It's pretty raw. You're just writing the code, you're manipulating memory. That's really fun for me. It's not too different than data structures and algorithms where you're given the data structures and libraries and all that, and you have to like implement some algorithm. But when it comes to modern development, I rarely have that experience nowadays, and I understand why. We're building applications, and of course you're going to use dependencies. You don't want to reinvent.
Yeah, I think this what this whole rant is about, that web dev is too bloated, and I can agree 100% to that. The only way we can solve this problem is to have more standards, more people who can come together rather than creating 10 million different frameworks. They can all work on one or two framework. Uh, I think that's the only way to fix this problem. If everyone is working on same problem with different solutions, we will ended up having the same issue. I don't think so. We will ever be able to solve this thing in WebDev. And yeah, I think that's it from today's video. And I'll probably see you in the next reaction video. Yeah, I'll try to do more of these videos. I like it. I like doing these things, doing other people's video. I'll see you next time.